It is now midday of day 2 in the trial of Crystal Rogers' boyfriend and his alleged accomplice. We're taking a closer look at what's happened so far in court, taking a look at those 3 takeaways you need to know from the courtroom. Yesterday, full of bombshells. At first, prosecutors claimed the plan to kill Crystal was a family affair that started weeks before her disappearance. Houck's mom, Rosemary, and brother Nick have been called unindicted co-conspirators, still under investigation in this case, but neither have ever been arrested or charged. Next, the defense painted a different picture of what happened on Bluegrass Parkway, where Crystal's car was found. Houck's attorney said Crystal hid their shared car from Houck, and the Lawsons were helping to pick it up. And finally, the defense is claiming Houck was taking Crystal on a surprise date the night she was last seen alive. Well, this morning, the jury heard testimony around the first police interview with Brooks Houck. Our Alexander Goldberg was inside that Warren County courthouse. Alexandra, what have we learned?
Brooke, well, I'm here to catch us all up to speed here. Former Nelson County detective is still on the stand, and his testimony is walking us through Brooks Houck first week after Crystal Rogers was reported missing. Now, yesterday, we know that Snow spoke about what he found in Rogers' abandoned car. Of course, it was abandoned on the Bluegrass Parkway mile marker 14. Left in the car was her purse, and inside of the purse, there were some receipts, including some Walmart receipts. And based off of those receipts, Snow was able to find that Crystal Rogers was in Walmart at 4:30. Now, he was able to obtain surveillance video of Crystal Rogers with her 2 kids walking outside of Walmart. So we did see Rogers' final hours before she was reported missing on tape. Moving forward here, yesterday we saw the July 5th interrogation between Snow and Brooks Houck, where Snow says his statements that he provided in the interrogation room were, for the most part, mundane. The one thing that he thought was strange is that Brooks didn't report Crystal missing. Moving forward to this morning, a juror saw the July 8th interrogation, and we've had this video for 10 years. We've seen this video before, but one new element not heard yet. John Snow says that he saw Houck fumble with the tape recorder. Another element to bring up here, Snow tells Houck that he's a person of interest on the case. He also tells him that he's struggling to understand why they were on the family farm. Rogers, Houck, and Eli, why they were on the farm in the rain for that many hours, over 4 hours, and with a young baby. Jurors also got a copy of Brooks' handwritten statement that he provided on July 8th in the interrogation room. Snow saying it took him an hour and a half to write that. So jurors had that statement. Snow is still on the stand as we speak.
So now let's take a look back. We know the opening statements are kind of like a roadmap for these cases. What kind of case are prosecutors and defense trying to build here?
Right, Brooke. A roadmap is exactly what we're talking about here. Shay and I have been saying for the last day or so that prosecution is setting up their argument as common sense. Of course, it's a no-body homicide. We know that they're prosecuting based on primarily circumstantial evidence, no body, no confession, no weapon. Defense, however, they're saying that there's a lot of pressure in this case. Pressure from the media, pressure from documentaries and podcasts, pressure on law enforcement to paint Brooks Houck as sort of, the easiest way to fill in the gaps that law enforcement couldn't build. So there's a couple of details that I want to go through here. Prosecution paints this picture that Brooks wanted a kids-free romantic night with Rogers the night of July 3rd, 2015. So we have the attorney, Jim Lasowski, say that Crystal is at home with her son Eli, goes into Walmart and runs into Amanda Greenwell, who later testifies. And Crystal Rogers says that she gets a phone call from Brooks Houck, who says they'll have a kids-free romantic evening. That is a witness testimony. We also heard that in opening statements. But on the other side, defense had a rebuttal, said going to the Houck family farm was Crystal's idea. Moving forward here, we also see themes of inconsistencies in Houck's testimony versus his cooperation with law enforcement. So I am flipping through my notes now. we hear that Lasowski, the attorney for the Commonwealth, says, quote, "You'll see Brooks Houck provides no information about his whereabouts from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. on July the 3rd, just hours before Rogers went missing. He says experts will testify that his phone shows he's at the farm all day." So they're sort of filling in, painting this picture here that Houck is not giving information to police, while the defense says he is. He's been highly cooperative with police, actually allowing them to, search his car and his home without search warrants. Another big detail that we saw here is about a grand jury. The prosecution says that that Houck family members were secretly recording grand jury testimony with tape recorders, and Brooks Houck, and they say Brooks Houck says that Nick wants to hear this grand jury testimony, and these files were actually found through a search warrant at Nick and Rosemary Houck, Brooks' mother, home. But moving forward here, the defense actually says that because of this pressure, it was too much pressure on the Houck family. They just didn't want to get the family was so paranoid. Brooks was afraid something might get twisted. Those are the words of Steve Shoring. Moving forward to this last element here, this has to do with Nick's Houck police cruiser. We know that there was a blanket in the back, and the prosecution says that you will hear a sort of frantic, worried phone call from Rosemary. And she's saying that this is, again, the attorney for the Commonwealth. You'll hear worried communication to Brooks. She says, "What about this blanket?" "Well, why would you be concerned about your blanket?" Attorney says, "Well, use your common sense." Now moving forward here, defense rebuttals, saying Rosemary's statement about the blanket. They say, "Well, look at all the context when you hear that." He says, a quote, this is Shoring, quote, if you look at it through a sinister view, you'll come to a sinister conclusion." Those are some of the main points that we found. And of course, after opening statements concluded, witnesses, family, friends took the stand.
All right, thank you so much, Alexandra Goldberg, for us here going through all of that testimony. And we know that things are in a midday break right now, and she will be returning to the courtroom to see a little bit more of what happens, as is our Shay McAllister taking a seat in there. She's been through this case since day one. As we mentioned, the first day of trial full of bombshells. Alexandra has a more in-depth with testimony from day one.
Filling in the gaps, witnesses for the Commonwealth taking the stand, revealing July 3rd, 2015 was supposed to be a surprise date night for Crystal Rogers and Brooks Houck. Christina Hawley, a friend of Rogers, addressing the jury after opening statements concluded. Hawley says she was at Rogers' house earlier, the day she was last seen. She talked about taking the kids out to get pizza, but Rogers told her they couldn't because Houck wanted a kid-free night. But that never happened. Rogers and Houck went to the Houck family farm, and prosecutors say Rogers never returned. Rogers' cousin Amanda Greenwell doubling down on the couple's plans for a romantic night. Greenwell testified that she ran into Rogers on July 3rd, 2015 while at Walmart. And surveillance video later presented to the jury does show Rogers visited a Walmart at 4:30 that day. Some of her final hours on tape. Greenwell saying Rogers, quote, said she and Brooks were going on a surprise date. She didn't know what they were doing or where they were going. She was very excited, end quote. But Greenwell wasn't Rogers' only family member who took the stand on Wednesday. Rogers' daughter Kylie Fenwick emotional, describing her relationship with Houck. She testified, quote, "I never had a father figure. I thought he was going to step up to the plate." Fenwick said on July 4th she tried to call Rogers but didn't get an answer. Unanswered by her mother and Houck. He never responded to Fenwick. Ending the day, former lead detective on the case, John Snow. A look at evidence collected in those beginning days. Snow said Rogers' car was swabbed for DNA, but law enforcement didn't get anything that provided evidence to who was driving the car at the time. Surveillance video also showing Houck's truck driving to the family farm at 7:30 and leaving around midnight. Snow saying Houck's story he told in a police interrogation from July 5th was consistent. In Bowling Green, Alexandra Goldberg, WHAS 11 on your side.
All right, and we are just taking a look now. You got a lot of people behind you, Alexandra. What are we expecting from this last half of the day after lunch?
Yeah, exactly, Brooke. You could tell by the action around me. It looks like we've now had a break for lunch. Expected to return in just a little bit now. John Snow will be cross-examined by defense, and we're expecting to see more witnesses take the stand today. For a full analysis, you can hear from myself, Shay McAllister, Doug Profit, and Nick Mudd tonight on WHAS 11 Plus for a 9 p.m. stream. Brooke.
Alexander, thank you so much. WHAS 11 News is again committed to bringing you the most thorough coverage of this trial in a decade here across Kentucky. Our legal analyst, as she mentioned, Nick Mudd, is going to be joining us daily to break down those key moments of the day, along with our Shay McAllister and Alexandra reporting there from Bowling Green. That is every night on the WHAS 11 Plus app. About 9 o'clock, you will see me right back here again tomorrow for our midday court update. And again, download the WHAS 11 Plus app on your TV and watch for free.